So, welcome to the next in our Connected World podcast. We're going to have a short series on asset reliability and condition monitoring. So, I'm Steve Wilkinson, Head of Product Innovation at ITI Group. I'm joined today with Mike Taylor. How are you, Mike?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm okay.
Good, thank you. Do you want to give us a quick introduction to yourself?
Yeah, no problem. My job title within ITI Group is Asset Reliability Lead. I've now been with the company just over 1 year. It's been an exciting year. A lot of progress. My background is condition monitoring.
Right.
Very early days, as say, late 1980s, introduction to condition monitoring using analog systems.
Right.
And it's been an enjoyable journey so far, all the way through to where we are today.
Excellent. So, asset reliability lead. Tell me what is asset reliability and why is it important?
Well, we certainly notice now in the industry, whether this be general manufacturing, food and beverage, automotive, reliability is an integral part now of the maintenance program. And now with the evolution of condition monitoring, and especially now how easy it is to implement online solutions, there's the maintenance programs and engineers, etc., are now really seeing how easy it is to implement condition monitoring to enable asset reliability.
Yeah, okay. And so how do those two fit together then? Because we'll be using those terms quite a lot today. So, what is condition monitoring versus asset reliability?
Yeah, okay. So obviously, asset reliability. So the upshot for me, and I think most people, is that they want to have reliable assets in their factory, in their environment. The more reliable the asset is, the less pain that it gives them. The implementation of condition monitoring solutions for this. Condition monitoring is a broad umbrella. Various techniques that can be deployed, very easily deployed for a quick return of investment. So at the end of the day, if we have a customer or a client, or there's an engineering department that want to implement and gain the added value of reliable assets, sensor solutions easy. However, it's not just about the deployment of the sensors, it's understanding the historical data of those machines in question that we're deploying condition monitoring techniques on. Some of the assets that we deploy it on could well be historically bad. Okay, so from the outset of the deployment, we really need to have a better understanding from the customer on their specific pains to make the condition monitoring program successful for them. Okay.
And so say for a typical manufacturer that isn't currently using condition monitoring, what might be their current state? How might they be managing their maintenance?
There are various techniques or methods they may be using at the moment. They may just be applying run to failure. That might be their maintenance strategy. So effectively, they've made the decision that they've looked at the return of investment on condition monitoring. They may just well say, okay, we know that for that specific asset, we've got X amount in the stores. Okay.
Yeah.
The turnaround time to carry out a replacement of that motor, pump, gearbox is minimal time and minimal impact to their business. So potentially you'd like to think that they'd already carried out a criticality assessment on their assets. So giving them a better understanding of specific failure modes, as we've just mentioned there, how quick it is to replace the asset, or either that, they may even have already implemented a PM. So they've got planned maintenance already in place. So they're doing periodic checks. Now, those periodic checks can be a result of just visual inspections, checking lubrication, checking chain tension, inspecting a fan. But all that is additional time, and a lot of organisations now in the industry have limited manpower resources for that.
Let's carry on with that example. So a manufacturer, they may be doing planned maintenance, but they're still finding that those activities aren't giving them the reliability that they're asking for, they're seeking. And so they've maybe heard of condition monitoring. Where would they start? What would be the right place to get going with it?
Okay, as mentioned, the best thing would be to implement a criticality assessment, working with the maintenance department and to identify their pains and their issues. It's not just a case of identifying various sensor solutions and just going to stick them on an asset just for the sake of sticking them on. It's got to be meaningful data, and that data needs to present and identify the potential failure in an asset. Okay,
Yeah.
So once the criticality assessment's been carried out and we've identified the return of investment on the solution, the most common deployment sensor solution at present is vibration analysis. Okay, or vibration sensors, and that's as a result that it's very quick and easy to deploy. Okay, minimal cost. Okay, non-intrusive. Where the likes of other solutions that are in the marketplace, there's a lot of maybe rectification or changes to specific assets, a lot of hard wiring that needs to go in place as well. Yeah. Okay, so it's just working for them, identifying what the return of investment, doing the criticality assessment, identifying what they've got in their spares, lead time to failure, etc. A lot of organisations already may have a condition monitoring solution in place where they do it on a periodic check.
Right.
So they may use a third party, they may do it internally. Someone might walk around with a data logger collecting vibration data, temperature data, process data. However, once you've identified a specific fault, one of the biggest questions someone will ask is, well, you've identified the fault, how long is it going to last? How long's this machine got to run till I need to replace it? I don't think anyone out there will put their hand on the heart and specifically give a specific time. And what they will probably do and say, well, let's increase the monitoring frequency. However, potentially depending on how severe the fault is with that asset, that means that potentially you're sticking or putting a person in front of an asset with the potential of a catastrophic failure. So it's not just, it's also the safety application to it as well. So with online condition monitoring solutions, you can move away the individual and bring in cloud-based solutions. Okay,
so let me just kind of recap then. So we've got someone that might be using a planned maintenance strategy at the moment. They can get started, they can carry out a criticality assessment, figure out what are the assets that, if they do fail, are going to give them the biggest problems.
Yeah, the biggest pain,
they haven't got the spares, or it take too long to get them.
Okay,
and so they might be monitoring those already with a manual process once a month, or however long. And then, like you say, the issue is if you want to increase that to monitor for failure, you could be putting a person in front of an asset that you know is going to fail, which obviously has a safety on it. Excellent. And then you've mentioned the kind of the alternative, if you like, which is this online condition monitoring. Tell me a bit more about that. How does that
Okay,
work?
so the evolution now of monitoring solutions, condition monitoring. Initially, all systems were hardwired, okay, labor intensive for deployment, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of time, a lot of effort. Whereas nowadays, in most applications, there are certain industry sectors where wireless or Bluetooth solutions aren't really fit for purpose. However, in most industrial applications now, the deployment of a Bluetooth sensor, vibration sensor, predominantly, because that's the one that can identify most failures earlier in the earliest form. Very easy to fit. Mentioned before, non-intrusive. Various methods of installation, depending on the size of the unit or the asset. They're connected straight to a localized gateway. The gateway can be connected to the organization's intranet structure, but in most applications, it's just a cellular connection, and then the data is then pushed up to the cloud. So the end user, the clients, the third-party incumbent, they can access that data, the vibration data, just through a normal web browser.
Okay.
It's a very simple process.
And is it, what do you find? Do people have the skills on site and in house typically to analyze that data, or is it a specialist skill?
No, it is a specialist skill. Okay, however, a lot of organized, depending on the size of the organization, some organizations will possibly carry out the routine periodic checks internally. Okay, and they will have it set as a PM, and we discussed there about PMs. Yeah. However, let's say, for example, they carry out it internally. They've got it scheduled for Joe to go and take a set of readings Thursday of that week. However, they've got a breakdown. The likelihood is that Joe will get dragged off onto another piece of work, and that 4-weekly check will just be say, oh, it's all right, it's just a vibration condition monitoring. We don't need it. We'll just bypass it this month and let's Joe go and do the breakdown instead. So that's kind of the one scenario where it's, it kind of takes away the handheld periodic checks.
Yeah. Okay. So if we go back to the whole kind of asset reliability piece, then say they've gone down this journey and implemented an online vibration analysis tool. How does that change the picture of what they were doing at the start with these manual checks and the planned maintenance? Can they just stop doing everything now, or
no? It's still catch-22. Okay, for me. So I because I'm the individual that would have maybe gone around on a periodic check to do these inspections. It will free them up more time. Mm-hmm. Okay, and they can set, based on historical data, they can implement certain thresholds on those assets. So they can eliminate the time of a person going out doing the checks, and they can just base their inspections on good alarm values, thresholds. Right. Okay, so if they implement tight alarm thresholds, knowing that alarm threshold when breached, will send them a notification. And that notification then is either generated via an email, text, or even to the point now integration with their CMMS system.
Right.
And the possibilities there of raising a notification straight into their CMMS system. So we're effectively taking away that manpower element.
Yeah.
And that's the breakdown in it. However, the PM will land still on someone's desk as a result of that. Fan number 1 has breached a certain threshold. It's raised a notification and it's landed up as a PM. Someone still has to go and carry out that inspection to that piece of asset.
Okay, so they've got an online system now. They're being notified when alerts and issues to go and investigate. That's going in, and they're doing into their CMMS, and they're doing their maintenance activities around that. So I can see things are becoming a bit more proactive now rather than reactive.
Yeah.
Is that the end of the story, or have they done it now? Have they ticked a box and move on to something else?
No, they can't just walk away from it. There still needs to be, in my opinion, a level of babysitting on this with regards to the continuous improvement. So even to the likes of the continuous improvement element of it, for example, there are specific ISO alarm thresholds that can be applied to assets from the outset. However, you can apply statistical alarms on these, but the alarm thresholds need to be reviewed because there's the potential opportunity that a machine can have a failure before it's breached the ISO threshold.
Right.
So, the continuous improvement is that individuals need to spend time reviewing the data, even to the point of if an asset's replaced out in the field, they can't just rely on the historical vibration alarms that were on the previous asset that they've replaced. There needs to be that element that within a month to 6 weeks that they've reviewed the vibration parameters and adjusted the alarm thresholds accordingly.
Okay. So I guess it becomes something then that feeds into your wider kind of continuous improvement activities.
Yeah.
Becomes just another tool for doing that. Doesn't replace them or.
No, and that goes whether they're doing it, whether the organisation are doing it internally, or there's a third party outfit. The third party, the incumbent, the service provider, they also need to keep applying continuous improvement.
Right. Okay.
There can't be a level of complexity.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you for taking us through that journey. Just remind us again how people get started. What would be that first step?
Initially, criticality assessment.
Okay.
Really identifying what assets in their environment are suitable for condition monitoring applications. As I say, it's not just a case that they go and deploy sensors for the sake of sensors. They really need to see the return on their investment for the justification for the deployment of a solution.
Yeah. And if that's something they don't know how to do themselves.
Yeah, but there are numerous organisations, and ITI are one of those organisations within the consultancy team that are more than willing to help them along that journey.
Perfect. All right, Mike, thanks for your time. And we'll be back with more details on condition monitoring. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.